How do you ship a piece of furniture? Now, before we get started on anything, new merch alert. I'm gonna get into this later on in the video, but the sponsor of this video, Fiverr, teamed up with me to create some new merch, which looks super dope, and to do so in a way that benefits some charities in the woodworking space. Stick around till later in the video to learn more about that. But also, this is why I don't wear hoodies. There's also this shirt, which maybe is even doper, but we will get into those in a little bit. First, let's talk about shipping. When I was a younger woodworker, a nascent lad, a wee lad trying to figure out how to start a furniture business, maybe the thing I was most intimidated by was shipping. Shipping a piece of furniture just kind of feels like a big ordeal, and it feels like a big ask of a client to pay for the extra cost of freight shipping their piece. And so I didn't work with clients who were potentially too far away for me to deliver a piece by hand. Now, I will say that I still prefer to deliver a piece by hand because I really like that interaction with the client, but it's not always practical. Taking on clients who are outside of the delivery radius has opened me up to new clientele in different regions with different tastes and different creative limitations that I find really interesting. But the process of creating and shipping a piece of furniture is less intimidating than you may think. Now, this piece is finally, for all intents and purposes, complete. It doesn't have a coat of finish on it yet, and I know you may be asking, why are you building a crate before putting finish on it? Isn't that a little bit like putting the cart before the horse? Yes, but just trust me on this. The weird way my schedule works out this week is going to be more time efficient for me to build a crate today and then start the finishing process tonight or tomorrow. But that notwithstanding, the idea of crating and shipping this piece is pretty straightforward because at the end of the day, it's just a big box. So all we need to do is build a bigger box for this to fit inside of. And it doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be a piece of furniture in its own right. It just has to hold up to the wear and tear of freight shipping. Now, something to bear in mind, when shipping a piece of furniture to a client, you have a few options. If the piece is small enough, you can just box it up in cardboard, put a bunch of bubble wrap in there and ship it off. I've seen it done before. It's not a thing I would do on a high-end commission, but on a production piece where you're trying to keep the cost down for shipping for the client, that's the most practical option. But if you've spent multiple months working on a piece and a client is several $1,000s in, you may want to be a little bit more careful as to how the piece actually gets to the client. So you also have something called a white glove service where you can essentially ask a company to come pick your piece up, wrap it in blankets, put it in a box truck, and drive it directly to the client. That is a very good option, but it does cost money and it does cost time. They are, for good reason, substantially more expensive than freight shipping. If your client has that capacity or they don't have a capacity to unload a crate, that may be a good option. But for the majority of the pieces that I ship, I simply go freight. And what that essentially means is I'm going to build a box for the piece of furniture to go in. That box is going to go to your shipping companies, USPS, UPS, FedEx, and that's going to go on a train or in a plane, and it's going to go across the country by freight. It does require a little bit of comfort with the client to be able to receive a big plywood box, but we're talking hundreds of dollars versus thousands of dollars for a white glove service. Which brings us to our next point, the cost of shipping. Now, early on in my woodworking career, I never accounted for the cost of shipping in a piece of furniture, and I was terrified to ask a client for more money even if that piece was going to cost $200, $300, $500 to ship, and it would just come out of the budget, and I would take that hit. But in full transparency, nowadays, what I do is one of two things. Either I will establish the price of the actual commission with the client and then just say shipping is extra so we can deal with that when we get to it. Or more often is I will leave the window of shipping cost in the price and it's just built in. It makes everybody feel a little bit more, they don't feel like they're getting taken at the end of the day, at the very end of a commission with shipping costs. But of course, the cost of shipping isn't just the actual cost of shipping. When I take it to UPS and they hit me with a $300 price tag to ship this piece of furniture, it didn't cost me $300 to ship this piece of furniture. It cost me a day of labor to build the crate. It cost me materials to actually build the physical crate itself. So these are things that you need to consider when you're taking on commissions from clients who live in a region that you're not going to be able to deliver by hand. Now that's all good and well, that's practical business advice, but let's get down to the brass tacks of it. What materials do I use to build a bloody crate? So here's what I've got on hand in the shop. I've got a piece of 1/2-inch ply that I'm going to use for the bottom of the box. I've got a piece of 1/4-inch ply that I'm going to use to build the sides and the top. And I've got a piece of poplar that I'm going to use to trim out that 1/4-inch ply to make it more rigid while having a little bit less weight. Because you gotta remember that when shipping, it's both the volume and the weight that matters. So if I can cut down the weight of the actual component substantially, I'm gonna save quite a bit of money. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull the dimensions of my actual box, formulate a rough plan, and then I'm gonna get to cutting. Oh, also, I got this super dope new apron from my buddy Mike Calavera, made out of buffalo hide and gator skin, and it is sexy and it feels great, especially as the weather's starting to get cooler. So if you want to go support him, I'll leave a link in the description below. Now, we got to give that a few minutes to dry. But while we do, let's talk about the sponsor of today's video, Fiverr. So here's the deal. I've wanted for a while now to do something to raise money for the woodworking community, for this weird little niche of a support group we've built on the internet, because if nothing else, discovering my ability to create and bring joy into the world and beauty into the world enabled me to find value that I didn't know I had before. And I'm deeply, deeply grateful for it. And it's a thing that I want to continue to foster for other folks, no matter who they are, what they look like, how they identify, to continue to build a community that cares about one another, that lifts one another up, and allows folks to develop a greater sense of self. And so when Fiverr reached out about partnering together, I came back to them and said, here's what I want to do. I want to find the dopest industrial designer you have on your website. I want to commission them to take some of the pieces I've made and turn them into concept sketches. I want to print those sketches on a t-shirt. I want to sell those t-shirts, and I want to raise money for the woodworking community. And immediately they were like,
absolutely, we're in. Go do the thing.
And then I knew it was going to be a beautiful partnership. And so I set about searching their website for an industrial designer, a concept artist that I was drawn to, that I found their line work engaging. And I stumbled upon my buddy Jithan. And frankly, I was immediately drawn to his work. Just the liveliness, the energy. So I reached out, I explained the situation to him, I asked him if he was game, and he said, absolutely. And then he came back to me with this, and I was, guys, like genuinely, I think this is a dope t-shirt. The triptych, the open nature of the lines, the flow. And then when I actually got the first print of the t-shirt, I was like, oh my God, it's even better than I thought it was gonna be. And then he had the audacity to crush the other t-shirt as well. If you're unfamiliar, this is my whiskey cabinet, my touch cabinet. I made this during the pandemic. It's one of the most important pieces in my development as a designer and woodworker. And so that he was able to capture kind of what I think is the liveliness of this object in a flat drawing to put on a t-shirt, I was blown away. I love it. It's fantastic. His work is phenomenal because he is a professional. And this This is where I think the real value of Fiverr comes in. Because I am admittedly no professional illustrator. I have very limited training in drawing, but it is not my skill set. I'm a functional drawer. I can get the concept across, but not very well. Certainly not well enough that I would want to immortalize it on a t-shirt. I mean, guys, I'm bold, but I'm not that bold. But the beauty of Fiverr is that it connects you with professionals from all over the world in a wide variety of creative fields. From graphics and design to video and animation to digital marketing. You need someone to help you create 3D renderings of your newest furniture design? They got them. You need someone to help you create a website to sell your hand-carved spoons? They got them too. Do you need someone to help you market your hand-carved spoon business so you stand out from the pack? You better believe they got them. Or perhaps you're looking for someone to sketch up a new concept for a t-shirt. Maybe. So here's what I'm gonna do. These t-shirts are going on sale today. And from now until Thanksgiving, every cent of profit from these t-shirt sales is going to go to a charity that benefits the woodworking community. Because I've been lucky in my life to find a path that I deeply care about, but that was a hard-fought path. And without breaking down my childhood experiences, all I'll say is there have been a very few moments of grace in my life that have kept me on this path that I am and will always be deeply and profoundly grateful for. And if we as a community can create a moment like that for somebody else, I think we should do that. Because everybody deserves the opportunity to discover that they have something to contribute. No matter who you are, no matter what you look like, no matter what background you come from. So that's what I want to do. But also, guess what else is going on sale today? A lot of people wanted a Cabinet Maker's Prius t-shirt. So the shirt that my good friend Mary Sy designed is also now available for purchase. And this, just like the other two shirts, all profits will be donated to charity from now until Thanksgiving. So you've got 3 fantastic shirts to go choose from. Go pick them up. I'll leave a link in the description below. And a huge thanks to Fiverr for sponsoring this channel and being willing to sponsor the woodworking community as a whole. If you want to check out what Fiverr has to offer, I'll leave a link in the description below. And that's really all there is to it. It's just a plywood box. It's nothing special. 1/4-inch ply all around, trim pieces on the side, and in a few hours you got a crate done and ready for shipping. Now, a couple of brief notes. First and foremost, and the most glaringly obvious, is I changed my mind on the bottom. I didn't use a 1/2-inch piece. I ended up going with a 1/4-inch piece and framed it out in the exact same way. Number 1, because it's a little bit lighter. Number 2, because I realized I could actually get all 6 sides of this rectangular cube out of a single piece of plywood, so why bite into another piece? There are 4 vertical bars running along the length of the box to prevent any warping or any damage if and when they pick this up with a forklift, a moving pallet, something of that nature. The second point, and this is critical, this box is 2 inches wider on the interior dimensions for all 3 dimensions of the actual box. And that's so that I can add padding to the box. If I were to make this super snug, you'd end up with very little padding in there, and that's a really risky move when you're sending it freight. So I leave 1 inch on all 3 dimensions so that I can wrap this up in blankets or bubble wrap, depending on whether I'm going to get it back. If I'm getting it back, if I'm sending it out and back like to a gallery, I'm gonna wrap it up in blankets. If this is going there, the crate's getting destroyed, I'm gonna wrap it up in bubble wrap. But that 1 inch gives me plenty of play to pack it out nicely, and if there are any other accoutrements that need to come along with this cabinet, some repair parts, something like that, whatever you need to put in there, you can fit in around those 1 inch dimensions. Lastly, the panels and the frames are all glued up. You can just use a brad nailer and tack it together real quick. My brad nailer is MIA at the moment, so I just glued it up the old-fashioned way. That's totally fine as well. The box itself, however, is not glued up. It's simply held together with screws so that when the client gets it, they can dismantle it and dispose of the pieces more easily. So friends, that is that. Simple, basic box construction, quick and dirty. This is construction stuff. This is a shipping container. It's not made to be a piece of furniture. It's made to transport a piece of furniture from A to B. Don't overthink it, don't over-engineer it, and don't think that shipping furniture is beyond your capacity. I know it was something that I needed to take time and grow into, and maybe you're in the same position, but if you're thinking, maybe I could do that, it's just a little bit scary, you can do it. It's just shipping a big box, that's all it is. But for now, it's time for me to get out of here. It's later than I expected it to be, and your boy's hungry. And once again, thanks to the sponsor of this video, Fiverr, who allowed me to make this incredible shirt as well as the others, and donate the money to a good cause. So, if you want to support the channel, and if you want to support woodworking as a thing that people can better their lives with, go pick up some new merch. And go get in the shop. Go make a thing. Go try to enjoy the experience a little bit as you do it, because it's all lighter than we think. And until next week, friends, cheers.